JDL USA presents Rabbi Nachum Shifren, public speaker, author, and good friend of the late Rabbi Meir Kahana.
Good week to everybody, and we have a Shabbat coming up tomorrow, and glad everybody could be here. As they say, the faithful are assembled. Thank you so much for coming and joining us. What are we doing here? You know, you're wondering, here I am with this amazing, insane beard, disheveled look, and talking trash about this, that, and the other. We are the progeny of a great man, somebody who woke us up, somebody who aroused us, each of us from our slumber, each of us individually in so many ways. And we're here to make sure that that never again is actually real. That never again will Jews be slaughtered like they were. And I say that with trepidation because we're in a very difficult situation. We always have been. There's always been these divisions in Judaism. We talked about the Hellenists, the Mityavnim, Yavan meaning Greece, and then Mityavnim, the Hellenists, and what they did, what they wrought upon the Jewish people we're still suffering from it. 1,000 years later. This week, anyway, we're talking about Shemot. This is the book of Exodus. We are now entering a whole different phase. We were in the book of Genesis. All the Jewish people, Joseph, his brothers, and all their progeny are now in Egypt. I want to point out something and just deviate a little bit from our talk about the Torah here. You know, there's a saying that Rabbi Kahana used to use, and it's a Talmudic epigram. It's called Amitachzer al Amerachem al Achzar Sofo Yitachzer al Rachaman. Those that show pity to the evil will one day be merciless to the innocent. What are we talking about? Think about it. If you know that somebody's evil and you're kind to them and loving and helping them, and you know they're going to kill you or your family, why would you do that? It's because something inside of you is twisted or perverted, and you see goodness where only evil exists. The state of Israel is about to make a brutally horrific mistake. We've done this before. Previously, they exchanged 1,000 murderers for one Israeli citizen. Think about it. Those murderers went on to murder other Jews. You know, as soon as the quote-unquote peace, ceasefire, whatever you want to call it, between Gaza and Israel was known, all of the murderers that were in Israeli prisons said they thought they were victorious. You know, Gaza looks like Berlin after the war, and yet they thought they were victorious. They say that they're going to promise many more October 7th. The brother of what's his name, Yechia, the guy that was killed, the leader of the Hamas. He said there was going to be more October 7th. They promise it. We believe them. I believe them. Why wouldn't they? When you see a weak Israel now, I say that. Interesting, all of the soldiers that fell in Gaza, the brave Israeli soldiers that gave up their lives so that more Jews could be murdered, raped, kidnapped, sodomized. There's something really evil about this. There's something evil about a government that would do that. What kind of government really is there in Israel? Those of us that are students and followers and lovers of the late great Rabbi Meir Kahane, we know what he withstood, what the trials and tribulations he went through by the Israeli government, not by Arabs. The Arabs were afraid of him. What kind of Israelis? Let me tell you something that you're not going to hear from anybody else but me, apparently. Menachem Begin, he should rest in peace. He started out by saying that we will never make deals with terrorists. That was back then it was called the PLO, Palestine Liberation Organization. That was in the 60s, 50s, and whatnot. And people were pretty much in line with that. However, if you look at those peace people raising hands, we want our refugees back. We want our prisoners back. We want our captives back. Let me just preface by saying that one of the things that Rabbi Kahane used to love to do is go to the market, Shuk HaCarmel, Machne Yehuda. Shuk HaCarmel is the marketplace in Tel Aviv. Machne Yehuda is the one off of Yafo Street in Jerusalem. Who's in those marketplaces? What kind of Jews own places there? Whenever Rabbi Kahane used to go in there, they used to close it down. The people loved Rabbi Kahane. They would close down their falafel stands or their fruit stands or nuts or bread or whatever it is they were selling in order to greet Rabbi Kahane and shake his hand and not be distracted by customers, which in Israel is a big thing. Life is marginal there with the way things are with inflation and whatnot. But who are those people? Those are mainly Sephardic Jews. The Sephardic Jews in Israel loved Rabbi Kahane. Why? Ashkenazi Jews never lived in Arab lands. Ashkenazi Jews are white Jews, gringos, whites, whatever you want to call them. From Russia, from Germany, Romania, Italy. They never lived with Arabs. The Sephardic Jews lived with them, and they never want to live with them again. They knew who the Arabs were. This isn't a question of racism or this or that. It's just, it is what it is. The Arabs are going to declare war against Israel again and again and again. It could be that you got some as Israeli friends or Muslim friends. The devil comes out in times of stress and times of crisis, contentiousness, and he reveals himself in different people, in different ways. Whether it's a knife in the back, whether it's an RPG, whether it's blowing up a pizza station, whether it's kidnapping a little girl and raping them, keeping them hostage. This is what Israel's been dealing with since the day that the modern era started, where there was this feeling of east versus west kind of thing. So what we're talking about here is two different types of Jews. I don't want to get into this too much, but it's there. Realize that it is there. No normal Sephardic Jew is going to be carry a Peace Now banner. Peace Now means basically, I don't care if I live or die. I just don't want. I just want freedom. I want peace. I want this, that, and the other. It's not how life works, especially in the U.S. In the Middle East. You should know that every year Saddam Hussein, may his name be blotted out. Every year, tens of thousands of people go to his grave to celebrate his birthday. Why would they do that? He killed 500,000 of his own people because the Arabs understand strength and they despise weakness. That's why they loved Biden, for example. He was their guy, putting pressure on Israel, this and that and the other. That's another story. there shouldn't be an Israel that he has to put pressure on. Israel needs to be ultimately independent, but that's another story. This, interestingly enough, the statement, Amirachem al achzar sofo yitachzer al rachaman, those that have mercy on the evil people will one day be evil to those that are innocent. And we see this throughout Israel's policies. We saw it in Gush Katif, where Israelis were beaten up, where settlers were beaten up by Israeli policemen. We see it at the Temple Mount. Why is a Jew not allowed to pray on the Temple Mount? Temple Mount is where Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob prayed. That's our institution. That's our sanctuary. Why are we not allowed to pray there? If there's any Jews in Saudi Arabia or Iraq, they're probably praying underground, hoping nobody will see them pray. We saw this with the Altalena. Menachem Begin was on that ship. It was during the early years of the British Mandate, and the command was given by Yitzhak Rabin to kill Menachem Begin. Why would they want to do that? The Hunt, right? It was called the Hunt, where during the British Mandate, Jews were cooperating with the Brits to hunt down Jewish patriots that were against British rule. This is unbelievable. You can find out for yourself. It's nothing new. Yaldei Timan, another example where the many of the Jewish leadership before the statehood came from Russia. Quite familiar with KGB and Tsarist fascist tactics. They used to kidnap, Yemenite children that knew nothing but Torah and God and mitzvot and commandments. They came from a very, very backward area, but they had the Torah. They had the love of God. That was in their eyes. These people were kidnapped, many of them, sent to places, holy places like kibbutzes, where they learned how not to eat kosher food, etc. So all this is going on with the clamor and the uproar about the hostages. Israel is going to make a very, very serious mistake. And it's going to be done in the name of those people that have zero clue about what it's like to live with Arabs and to deal with them. What I want to really say is that the situation is grim, and Israel is about ready to be pressured into something that's going to really, really hurt the Jewish people. Now, one of the things that Rabbi Kana mentioned is the concept of war. As you know, there's a very famous song by the Byrds in the 60s. It's called Turn, Turn, Turn. Remember that one? To everything there is a time and a season, time for peace, time for war. Now, there's a whole chapter in the Torah devoted to the concept of what it's like to go to war, to be at war. And one of the things that it says is in Kitetse, that's the name of the parsha, is that when you go to war against your enemy, the first thing our commentator says, well, what do you mean? You're going to go to war against your friend? No. The idea is that remind yourself that they are your enemy, not your friend, and therefore treat them as though your enemy. The war in Gaza should have lasted 24 hours. Now, it's known that 85% of the people in Gaza supported Hamas. Therefore, same thing in Germany. The vast majority supported Hitler. That's why the Allies had no problem carpet bombing Germany. If anybody is listening to this and they know a little bit about history, European history, they'll know what I'm talking about. Germany became a parking lot everywhere Was there some good Germans? Of course. But guess what? The Allies didn't have time to interview the good Germans. That's not how it works. What Israel should have done is to make a cordon sanitaire, a complete blockade of Gaza. No food, no oil, no gasoline, no medicine, nothing. And within 24 or 48 hours, the hostages would have been released. That's a fact. But we didn't do it. The Israelis didn't do it. The opposite is true. The Israelis did kowtow to what Biden told them to do. Don't go into Rafah, don't do this, don't do that, not the Philadelphia corridor, whatever it is. But I'm getting into this. I don't like to, but the only time the Israeli government gets angry, they're not angry at the terrorists, the murderers. They're about ready to go to bed with these guys. They're about ready to do a swap of murderers, 1,000 murderers who have Jewish blood on their hands. They're about ready to give those guys up. And these guys swear they'll do it all over again. What is this? What kind of sane people are going to do that? The answer is nobody. So our parsha this week is Shemot. The first parsha dealing with the Exodus, the slavery in Egypt. Why was there a slavery to begin with? Well, if you've been following the parshas, you can find out that Joseph became a viceroy, a very circuitous route, became a viceroy of Egypt and gave sustenance for his brothers. There was a very bad famine throughout the land, all over the lands. And only in Egypt was there sustenance. Look at how God created everything. So that they would go to Egypt, they would find sustenance there, they would find a place to live, a place to study, and they basically prospered like crazy. So much to the point where our commentators say that every Jewish woman has at least 6 kids in her womb. I mean, altogether, raising 6, sometimes 12 kids, to the point where the Egyptians said, "That's it, enough. We're going to put these people in slavery," etc. What is the purpose of the slavery? First of all, let's look at the name of Egypt in Hebrew. It's called Mitzrayim. Mitzrayim is, if you look at the words, it's you can make a change it around, and you'll see that Mitzarim are limitations. It means in the Talmud, a Mitzar is like a border between you, a fence between your neighbor, for example. Mitzarim is limitations, obstructions, as it were. The Jewish people were like, they compared it to like a birth, like an embryo grows up in a mother's womb, not knowing anything, they didn't know anything about who they were. But interestingly enough, they never used non-Jewish names. And they were there for several hundred years. So this is a very big merit. In our prayers, in our liturgy, we talk about the liberation from Egypt. We mention it every single day, right? Giving thanks even to this day. And it says that if it weren't for God taking us out of Egypt, we'd still be there. Do you believe that? It was pretty grim. The Jews didn't have many options back then. Egypt was the most powerful force in the world at that point. And every day we thank God. Today, now that we're out of Egypt, but we're not out of Mitzarim. Each one of us has our limitations, right? Each one of us, if you really look in your heart and you really do what's called a cheshbon nefesh, a counting of the soul, as it says, that you'll see that we are remiss on. Each one of us, where we're weak or we fall down and things we have to work on. And one of the principles of the slavery in Egypt was the very first part of the parsha. We talked about avodah kasha, hard work. They were there to make bricks, as you know, for Pharaoh's tombs, I guess, the pyramids. Avodah kasha. The Talmud tells us that is how shall I say it? That is compared to kushya. Kushya means a question in the Talmud, questioning, learning the Talmud. What does this mean? What does that mean? We're not slaves anymore. We're doing backbreaking work, but instead, interesting how the Zohar and other sources tell us that instead of that, we have the work of learning Torah. Learning Torah is hard work. If you really want to get into it, if you want to learn the Talmud, the Gemara, Mishnah, all these things, it takes a lot of energy. It takes a lot of concentration and not a whole lot of video type stuff going on. It's all reading, which in our days, anybody that's a teacher knows how challenging that is for our students. Avodah kasha, they were hard work. Livenim are bricks. So the sages said livenim is like libun. Libun halacha. Libun means to make sense of something, to think about something, to establish a code, right? Laws, right? And then we have Hamar. Hamar was the I don't know, what do you call it? The things that they also made the bricks out of. They made them with Hamar, with straw. Hamar is Kal V'chomer. Kal V'chomer, of course, anybody that studies Torah knows. Kal V'chomer is a fortiori, arguments that are posited in the Talmud. This is the new work. This is what the Kabbalists tell us. This is what our tradition tells us, that sort of thing. But beyond that, Kur Barzel. Kur Barzel is like an iron furnace, and that was what the Kabbalists used to call Egypt. An iron furnace. You put something in that's a little bit, not so pure, and the impurities get burnt out. The whole thing, the 210 years of slavery, of being in Egypt, was for the purpose of purification. Now you might think, each one of the males, Jewish males, was thrown into the Nile River, right? That's a pretty heavy price to pay, I would say, right? And nonetheless, you can't really have a people that are going to be starting a brand new way of life, a new connection with the only exclusive connection with the creator of heaven and earth. He decided in his will that there would be a Torah, that there would be mitzvot, commandments, that would be ours, our legacy, till eternity, till the Messianic era. And so, in order to have that, we talked about that before. The Torah was given to the Ishmaelites, was given to the Edomites, basically the progeny of Esau, progeny of Ishmael. They refused it. They didn't want to know what was in it. The Jewish people, however, said, God, whatever is in it, we will do. You cannot get a people like that unless they're lockstep into doing exactly what they're told. Okay? There used to be a saying, Shlach et ami, let my people go. Remember when the Russian Jews were in communist Russia? There was a whole bunch of people, activists, said, let my people go. They took that from the Torah. But what they forgot to put in that slogan is, let my people go so that they will serve me on this mountain. Shiavduni HaZeh. The mountain, of course, was Mount Sinai. And what happened there? We became a people, a Jewish nation. So the whole concept of this Kur Barzel that we mentioned, this purification, it's kind of like going into a 5,000 degree heat and coming out, if you can survive that, you're going to do exactly what you're told. Your mind, your soul, your body will be a vehicle for godliness. That was the whole purpose. You'll remember that Abraham had two options during the covenant of the parts. Some of you may recall in the book of Genesis. And he fell asleep. He had a nightmare. God told him, "You're going to be your progeny is going to be a great people, but they will be enslaved. If you choose slavery, that's fine, or you could choose purgatory, going to hell, that sort of thing." Abraham chose slavery, and this is it. I mean, what happened there was the Jewish people became a nation. They understood that God took them out of Egypt. The 10 plagues, of course, we remember during Passover, and that was the whole purpose, right? What's interesting, another interesting thing, it says in the Parsha that Pharaoh told everybody in Egypt. It's funny, he didn't just tell the Jewish maid servants to throw the Jewish baby boys in the Nile River. He did it to his own people too. I can still, because they realized that the savior of the Jewish people will be his Waterloo, as it were, would be through water. You'll recall the situation where Moses, he struck the rock with his staff, and water was going to come out, and that whole thing. But anyway, so it says that the Pharaoh said, "Keep the girls alive, but throw the boys into the river." So the Kabbalists will say now, what do you mean keep the girls alive? Well, living for what? Adultery, idolatry, witchcraft, sorcery. Egypt was called the Ervata Aretz. Remember, it was a very evil place. And this is what they wanted to do. They wanted to turn the Jewish girls into to be just like them. Interesting when you look back at that little story there, that snippet. You have to sometimes go back to your class pictures, right? The 50s, 60s, whatever. Look at your first grade class picture, your second grade class picture. Those are kids that didn't have iPhones. There was no, Beyonce. There was no whatever, all these other things. It was real simple. Some people are glad that those days are over, the Eisenhower years, whatever you want to call them. But you know what? I remember we played a lot of football, a lot of baseball, came home at night, and we did our homework, and we were tired. We went to bed. Nothing to distract us. We were studying, we were learning, we were reading. As a teacher of over 20 years, I can tell you that there's anybody that thinks reading is on a computer is the way to go needs to think about it again. So with all that having been said, this parsha starts a brand new pathway for the Jewish people for us to think about. Mitzrayim, Egypt, limitations. What are we? Who are we? How are we able to get closer to God? And no matter who we are, no matter what you are, no matter what your background is, no matter what your ethnicity is, there's a certain level of human conduct that needs to be promoted. And that is the whole thing of the light of the Torah spreading out throughout the whole world. And if you talk to the original colonists like Benjamin Franklin, Thomas Jefferson, they'll tell you that at some point Hebrew was going to be the language of the American colonists. Didn't work out that way. But anyway, we are very grateful. Thank God we are free. And the Egypt that we are talking about this week is far away from us, but we still have a lot of work to do. And with that, I will wish everybody, God bless you all. Take care. Pick up a couple of books occasionally. look at Psalms, look at the Parsha, and our hope and prayer is that we do have true peace. And with that, I will say Shabbat Shalom.